Welcome to the Bradenton Times Candidate Focus 2010. In the interest of informing voters, we've invited all local candidates to come on and discuss the major issues in their race. While not all candidates were able to participate and others chose not to, each candidate was invited and afforded the opportunity to speak. Our interviews today do not imply an endorsement of any candidate or specific viewpoint, but are merely intended to provide information to the public. Joining me now is the Democratic candidate for State House District 67 here in Florida, J Hafeez. And ZJ, thanks for being with us today. How are you?
Thank you for having me here, Doug. It's a pleasure.
Before we get into some of the issues, let's talk about your background a little bit. I enjoyed reading that. You went to school right here in the Sarasota-Manatee area,
That's
didn't you?
correct, Doug.
New College.
Yeah, I'm a New College alum. I'm a lifelong resident of the South Shore community, which is the northern part of the district. My family basically came to this country over 2 decades ago in search of the American dream. And we were able to, find that dream. And it was a beautiful thing. And now what I see in this district and across the state of Florida is the door to that American dream has been shut. And what I want to do in this campaign, it's all about for me, is reopening that door.
Good place to come from a foreign country, Florida. You picked a good state.
I did. And it's a great state. And
Not you, but I mean your family.
Sure, of course. My father, he came here, and in terms of, for him, he set up a community health care clinic in Sun City Center, which is in the northern part of the district.
Palo Beach area.
Yeah, exactly. And he's been over there for the past 2 decades, and he taught me, some important values from his clinic and based on his pursuit of the American dream, the value of education and public education. I went to the public school system of Hillsborough County, kindergarten through 12th grade, and then I came over here to New College. Great education, public education, basically free. And the value of having this high quality education at the kindergarten through 12th grade level, the high quality public education and higher education, I understand how important that is and how important that is to allow people to achieve their vision of the American dream. So, they can get a good high paying job, buy a home for themselves, live in a secure neighborhood. So that's why I'm in this race and why I'm so excited about representing the people of District 67.
Yeah, that's great. I know you from New College. You also went to Georgetown Law School.
That's right.
And from there, you did an interesting job. I read up you went over and worked in Geneva. Was that right?
That's correct.
The World Trade Organization.
That's right.
How does a young college guy do that?
Well,
that was a great accomplishment. But
sure.
how did you?
Well, let me tell you. At Georgetown, I focused on law and I did public policy, but I also did trade policy. When I was in D.C., I worked at the Harrison Institute on public policy and doing trade policy as well. I worked with the International Labor Organization, the AFL-CIO, but we also worked with the National Conference of State Legislatures, and I had experience with them, advising them on smart policy making. And I hope to, eventually translate that policy experience back to here. Right. But when I was at Georgetown, since it has this, very special location, in Washington, D.C., this center of, international, just because it's the capital of the United States, it's also in many ways another capital of the world as well. So I was involved in the International Trade Moot Court. I made a lot of connections with people in D.C. and working on Capitol Hill as well. And then eventually when I graduated, I had a choice. It was either to go the normal route, get a law firm job, get a nice cushy salary, get a nice sports car or something, right. Or do something different, do something that I've always been inspired to do, give back, do some public service, do something that is not only going to better myself, but do something for the future. And I knew someone that worked at the World Trade Organization. Usually the people that come in there have worked in the trade field for many years. They have PhDs, they have all these degrees because it's a World Trade Organization, sure. And the Legal Affairs Division is, a very important mechanism in their trade policy and in promoting what happens at the World Trade Organization. So I was able to get a position there, and let me tell you something, living in Geneva, it was really an eye-opening experience. The work that I did with these great people from across the world, I think it's only going to help me bring these skills in terms of bringing trade, bringing new jobs, the connections that I think that can improve the economy in District 67. Because obviously trade is very important with the port here in Manatee. Right. There's a port in Tampa as well. I understand the importance of trade. I understand how trade works. I understand how trade policy works. And that's why I want to bring that to the District 67.
That's a great experience.
Absolutely.
For a young man right out of school to be able to kind of rub shoulders with that
world leaders.
organization.
Yeah, no,
That's unusual.
No, it is unusual. I mean, to be honest with you, there were days where we'd walk around, you'd see the head of state from, Germany or something, Angela Merkel, the world's time's most important woman, I mean, you don't get that opportunity usually. I'm very fortunate, and that's part of what I feel. I think that this community, I mean, going from kindergarten through 12th grade in a public education system that allowed for me to gain these opportunities. I feel so grateful to have been given all this. I feel a necessity to give back, and that's why I decided, to give back through public service. I'm very excited to give back to the community.
Well, I can tell you, there's passion, and did that ignite the passion going to Georgetown, or did you kind of have that always as a young man growing up down there?
I mean, to be honest, I was involved with the Democratic Executive Committee when I was in high school. I was in speech and debate, I was involved in a number of community organizations, the Community Education Center in Tampa. I was involved in college, at New College in Sarasota, of course with the Democratic Party, but also with the United Nations organization, the NAACP. We formed an organization after 9/11 to deal with interfaith dialogue so that people from different faiths could come together and understand each other better. Because, I mean, there's a lot of misunderstandings in this country and in this community. And I was part of forming Sarasota Openly Addresses Racism. But the whole point of everything I've done is about bridge building, bringing people together to make better, stronger communities. And that's what I want to bring to District 67, is hopefully this skill of mine, this ability to do this. I feel very fortunate along the way. It's just been getting lucky. I mean, I was lucky to get into New College and get a great scholarship there, and the Bright Futures program, which I think it's unfortunate. One of the policies which I'm a little concerned about is continual cutbacks on the Bright Future Scholarship program, and I think that's one of the great ways to retain high quality students in the state of Florida. I mean, who knows, if there wasn't a Bright Futures, I might have gone somewhere else. I might not have ever wanted to come back to this community. But because of Bright Futures, I stayed right here in Sarasota. I stayed right here in the state of Florida. And I came back after being in D.C. and Geneva because I love this community.
Almost a retention program.
Exactly, it is, very much so. And I think it's a great program because especially today with parents struggling to be able to afford education, they know they can rely that if their students work hard, they get a decent SAT score, they get good grades, they can work and graduate from high school and be guaranteed a great, good public higher education. And that's the beauty of America, because that is giving you the ticket to have your American dream. That is a ticket that allows you to step in and then achieve your high-paying job, and then achieve your home, and achieve healthcare. I mean, for my family, obviously, I told you my father has a community healthcare clinic in Sun City Center. He's been a physician for a long time, well established there, and he's taught me the value of healthcare. And today, I think healthcare is an issue that unfortunately has become partisan. But what we all need to realize is Democrats, Republicans, Independents, we all care about healthcare. We all want healthcare for everyone. Who doesn't want everyone to have healthcare? Every Floridian should have healthcare, and the fact that millions don't have healthcare, I think that's a problem, because my father has instilled in me the value of having good, high-quality healthcare, and I think that's why it's one of my important parts of my platform.
Let's talk about some of those issues. Sure. We'll get to the healthcare in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Offshore drilling, that's another issue, obviously, that we all dealt with the oil spill. As a member of the legislature, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, let me say that I have always been opposed to nearshore drilling. I think that we shouldn't be drilling off the coast 3 to 10 miles off the coast of Florida. We need to protect our most important resource, which is our environment. We need to protect our beaches, our coastal regions. We need to make sure that we protect the environment, because not only is the environment important for right now, it's also important because it's our economy. These beaches, this is why tourism comes. And the fact that after the BP oil disaster, our tourism dollars went down, not only all across the state, but especially in the Gulf Coast area, this area. We need to think about this when we consider offshore drilling. I was particularly disturbed with the politics in Tallahassee, that occurred when Governor Charlie Crist called a special session to allow the voters of the state of Florida, to give them a chance to ban nearshore drilling. And because of politics, they canceled that session. We need to give the voters a choice and give them that chance to decide, because I think that the voters understand the reality. There's over 4,000 offshore platforms. After the BP disaster, there was another oil rig disaster. And the fact is, some of these oil rigs are over 50 years old. We need better safety regulations. We need to do something before we ever think about offshore drilling.
Yeah, in the meantime, obviously, we have to still depend on oil to some extent. But
absolutely.
Would you say solar energy is possibly a thing you would propose? Or what other alternative energy sources do you think?
No, absolutely. I mean, when you say solar power, you just light up my face. Because I mean, I see solar, I go outside every day. We're in the Sunshine State. Not only are we in the Sunshine State, but this is a state where there's more sunshine than most any state in the entire union. Yet we're not ahead when it comes to solar power. Why is that? Well, let's look at the other states. They have programs like net metering and the feed-in tariff, which allow you to sell back excess electricity. We need to do that all across the state. We need to let people install solar power panels in their homes and their commercial businesses, and then feel secure that this investment is going to pay off because they can sell off the excess electricity. They're going to get incentives. We need to provide more incentives for people to help them with this original cost. Because once we provide these incentives, we're going to create a new infant industry. This industry is going to really boost the economy in terms of if we had a level of people really buying into solar power, where we had people installing solar power panels, manufacturing solar power panels, maintaining the solar power panels, repairing. These are all jobs, good, high-paying jobs in each of these different areas.
Right.
And I think that solves the economic problem, it solves an energy problem, and improves the environment. And then on top of that, one of our state universities, just south of us, as you know, has gone solar. And we've also had a few solar power plants that have happened. I think we need more solar power plants, and I think each and every university in the state of Florida should be completely run on solar power. It's possible, and once it's there in those universities, once we make that initial investment, it'll pay off. And then we'll also create a culture in the state of Florida with all these Florida students seeing that solar power is a reality, that in the future, more people will want to invest in that when it comes to their home or their business.
I know about 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, that seemed to be a big push on that. Then it kind of went by the wayside.
Absolutely.
I think now with oil just going crazy in prices, I think that would be something that if you get to the legislature, that would be something. Is there something that can be done, though, there?
Sure. I mean,
bills can be proposed?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's incentives that can be put in. I think we need to put the funding into providing the money so these universities can build these solar power panels. We can also build more solar power plants, but especially given that the president and federal money that's coming in to help with these programs. But let me also say that 10 to 15 years ago, I remember in my old house, 10 to 15 years ago, maybe even 15 to 20, I don't remember how long ago it was. It was around that time, though, when people really wanted solar. We installed solar power panels to warm my pool, all right? Let me tell you something, those solar power panels couldn't even warm the pool. Now, I mean,
technology is better.
Technology is so much better.
Yeah.
People don't understand that. I mean, there's still, that fear of whether this is really going to work, whether it's realistic. But solar power panels have shown all across the world that they work. And the technology is so advanced that the same level and amount of money and everything else that I spent on, or not me, but my family spent on installing those solar power panels on our first home to heat a pool, which was unsuccessful, would heat an entire house in the winter. And would also provide excess electricity at other points of the year.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that can be done. Let's move on now. You mentioned, obviously, your dad, a physician. Another big issue in Florida is the prescription drug facilities, also called as pill mills. I know a new law just went in that took effect about a week or so ago as we taped this. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it's a shame that there are certain physicians, I think it's particularly in South Florida, that have been involved in writing prescriptions for people without actually taking care of them. I think that generally in the state of Florida, there has been a problem of the physician-patient relationship. I think what we need to realize is there are some real people that have real problems, that really have pain, that need help. But the solution is not by letting any random person showing up to your office and then writing them a prescription for sometimes some very serious narcotics, And the way the system is set up right now, we need more regulations. So I think there needs to be something done, and we need to go after the bad doctors. But we need to make sure that the good doctors that are running good, legitimate pain management clinics don't go falling by the wayside. So it's a balance there.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest part of it is establishing the patient-doctor relationship, because there are patients that go see a doctor regularly, and the doctor regularly sees him, and they have this relationship, and they understand, they get to manage the medication. That's what needs to happen, and that way we can have healthier Floridians, because like I said, healthcare is such an important issue. I think that pill mills aren't the only mills that we have in the state of Florida. When we talk about Medicaid fraud, I think this leads into this naturally.
I was going to say, the uninsured Floridians, how do you deal with that as a member of the legislature?
Well, I mean, there's many ways to deal with this. First of all, we need to realize it's a problem. I think that millions of Floridians don't have health care. The last number I read was 800,000 children don't have health care. I mean, there's been proposals like Kid Care, Cover Florida, other programs using the S-chip. What we need to realize is we need to come together as Democrats, Republicans, and independents, realize that health care is an important value, realize that there are some good things that can come out of the health care program that the president passed. There are definitely some problems with it, but there's also some positives. We need to focus on those positives and get what we can out of that. And then we need to come to the state level and see what we can do to lower the cost of health care. I, as a Democrat and as an attorney, believe that one way to do this is through comprehensive tort reform. And I think that really separates me from most Democrats and most attorneys.
Well, lawyers won't like to hear that.
Well, it's okay. The thing is, it's not. I'm not here bought by any special interest group. I'm not part of any establishment. I mean, that separates me from my opponents. It separates me from most politicians. I don't know if you get this from talking to me, but I'm not running here to help some certain interest group get something passed or to be bought by any group. So even though I'm a lawyer, and even though I know that certain lawyers aren't going to pay, that are traditional Democratic donors wouldn't give me money because I support tort reform, it doesn't matter to me, because what I know is what's right. What's right is that in the state of Texas, in 1995 and 2002, they passed comprehensive tort reform. They changed the way that lawsuits occurred. They changed the way that we legislated how the judicial system worked. They changed the way so there was less lawsuits, that there was caps on fees, there was caps on how much lawyers could take, and they completely changed the healthcare system. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Texans who didn't have affordable health care then had affordable health care. The cost of health care went down because the cost of practicing medicine went down. Less defensive medicine occurred. This is the beauty of what good tort reform can happen. And at the same time, lawyers still are able to make a living, a very good living, a very comfortable living, especially those very successful lawyers that are practicing those. Because let me say something, just as much as there needs to be tort reform, we need to also go after those doctors that are involved in fraud, because there are some good doctors and there's bad doctors, just like there's good people and bad people. And the doctors that are involved in Medicaid fraud, we need to go after that as well to lower the cost of health care so that we can provide health care for more people. And I think that's something that I'll definitely go after. I mean,
yeah, let's talk about jobs.
Sure.
Obviously, that's on everybody's mind right now. What can you do as a member of the legislature to bring perhaps more companies or jobs to your district?
Sure, absolutely. One of the ways, obviously, is my solar power initiative. But what we need to do really is think about how we can really solve the economic crisis. And if we look at what's worked in the past and what we can do, I think there's many ways. First of all, we have incentives for small business owners. For the people that really need help, to help their businesses continue to grow, because they're one of the largest producers of new jobs. We need to help foster new programs and support programs like the Qualified Industry Tax Rebate Incentive Program to bring in certain good industries into the state and bring new jobs that way. We also need to work with companies to retain jobs, to make sure like the Tropicanas, the PepsiCos don't leave our area like they did in this area. I think that was a big problem. We should have worked with them to keep them here. And that affected our district specifically. We need to work to make sure that I'm going to bring my background in trade and understanding the economy and understanding how policy works to coming up with new proposals for that as well. And lastly, let me mention this. the way we have a tax system, the tax system needs to be changed. There needs to be different relief, and we need to, first of all, close exemptions on special interest groups who just buy exemptions right now. We need to look at all the loopholes that are there, and we need to make sure that the incentives, the exemptions that are there make sense, and they actually produce the economy. They're not there because a special interest group decided to pay a politician. And instead, we need to provide tax relief to manufacturing industries so that we can provide new jobs, diversify the economy, and improve the manufacturing system. Because the way the system is set up right now, since manufacturing companies can't expense off their accounts of old machinery and things of that nature like you do in other places. I spent a semester at the Wharton School of Business, since at New College, there's no business program. And there I learned that in accounting, part of it is you have to be able to expense this out. And in manufacturing, this just didn't happen. And that's the way I think we create new jobs, is by supporting a manufacturing industry in the state of Florida. It's very possible.
Yeah, keep the outsourcing.
Exactly.
Back in sourcing. I mean, that's a big issue. And
Absolutely.
Can government do something about that?
Absolutely. I think what we have to do is, once we foster, because, okay, politicians can't create jobs. That's something that politicians like to say they do all the time, is I'm going to create jobs.
Right.
That's impossible. What you can do is you can foster an environment which allows job growth. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what I want to do.
You're one of the few politicians that's ever said that publicly.
Well, I mean,
because you cannot create a job, but you can set up an area where
exactly, you can create a
Incentive.
system, incentives. You can create an environment, and that's what we need to do—a more positive environment, so that the economy can grow in the state of Florida. I don't see myself as the average politician who's caring about his own special interests, or caring about helping someone else, or benefiting. I'm someone who wants to be a statesman, to stand up not only for the state, not only for the government, but for the people of Florida. That's who I want to go to bat for. So that's what separates me, and that's why I make statements like this, and that's why I'm willing in my policy platform to have ideas that are from all different parts of the political, the political ideologies.
We're down to about a minute or so left,
Sure.
ZJ, and feel free to take a look at that camera, and in about a minute and a half, tell the voters why they should vote for you on November 2nd.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, let me once again thank you, Doug, and for the Bradenton Times, as well as Manatee Educational Television, for taking the time out to have this interview today, and all of you viewers back at home for listening and caring about the issues that matter to you most. Here's what this race is really about. This race, for me, is about making the American dream attainable again. Attainable for all Floridians. Opening up that door that has been shut on so many of your faces, the door to opportunity. This means sending someone to Tallahassee who's going to work for you and work hard for you every day. Not work for any special interest group, not work for big business, work for the everyday Floridian. That means working hard every day to foster job growth, foster job creation. Someone who's going to work hard every day to improve the education system because he understands the value of education. Someone who understands that we need to help support public education, support the teachers, support the schools. Someone who is going to work hard to make healthcare affordable and accessible to all. And someone who will make sure that you don't have to make the choice between buying prescription drugs and putting food on the table. I hope that on November 2nd, you do take this opportunity, the opportunity to have the choice to vote in an independent advocate, an advocate that will work hard for you every day in Tallahassee to make sure that this state is a better state and this district is a better district. I encourage you to visit my website, votezj.com. That's www.votezj.com, or call my headquarters, 813-633-2010, with any questions. I ask for your vote, and I humbly ask for your support. I'm J Hafeez, and I hope to be your advocate and your next state representative for District 67. Thank you very much.
CJ, appreciate it.
Doug,
Thanks for being with us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us for the Bradenton Times Candidate Focus 2010. We'd like to thank all of our participating candidates and remind viewers that although some candidates could not or chose not to participate in this series, all were invited. The Bradenton Times and METV do not endorse any specific candidates or views, but we do encourage you to get out there and vote on November 2nd. I'm Doug Miles. Thanks for watching.